that's for tax purposes, and basically have investors buy into that trust. Converts into bonds. Yeah. The securities are then sold, and you're being able to invest in $1 billion of really good diversified.
That would be the alternative way than a typical bank.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like PNC today, all of their non-construction loans are, it's kind of a tweener, so bear with me here, but they will use CMBS loan documents so that every loan can be sold.
Okay.
It's on a for sale basis.
You sign.
But they actually hold it on their books. So they have the ability to get rid of it if they want to. Right. So it's for their books purposes, the reserves they have to take are minimal because it's considered a for sale property. They're just not selling it today. They want the right to be able to sell it tomorrow. So that's how they've been able to kind of skirt competition, is being able to say, I'm not going to take the reserves. It's not going to be a held asset on our books. Mm-hmm. It's actually going to be for sale, but we determine when we sell it.
But now would they have to sign a pre-sale agreement with the group of investors?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So those CMBS loan documents are saying your property is being for sold. You'll cooperate. You're managing all the expectations through it, but there's and it's actually we might choose to do so. We have the right to do it. We may do it. We may not. Some borrowers are saying it is. It is a significant loophole, but they don't do a lot of it. It's maybe $1 billion or two of it,
right?
Annually or so.
I got a quick question. Would a non-recourse loan, because you said they do that on stabilized assets.
Yep.
So before it gets stabilized, would it be a recourse loan?
Yes, typically. Oops.
So start as a recourse and then kind of transition into non.
Right. So when you get your construction loan, it's going to be recourse. You're going to be personally guaranteeing it because you've got construction risk, you've got lease up risk, and I mean every risk you could possibly think of to getting something completely stabilized in nature. I mean it's. I'm trying to think what else can anybody think? Operating like the draws, because I guess you're really not operating the property.
No, I mean,
guess.
well, you're operating while you're leasing it up.
Okay. That's a good point. So yeah, you're just kind of managing it, but it's so you're going to start here because that's where everything starts. Again, the whole process is going to be getting something, and this is for a ground up construction scenario. But the non-recourse is where all those items, now it's just going to be management and leasing. Because you're going to have leases that roll over during the term. I mean, so the merchant builders, going back to it, they don't want to have to manage a property. They don't want to have typically any longer interaction with tenants more than they want to or need to. But a bigger component is your average lease is 5 years maybe. So if you've got a 10-year non-recourse loan, you're going to have some potential work to do to be able to maintain your debt service coverage constraints in a lot of your deals, maintaining the leverages. I mean, you lose a big tenant, you lose that Publix tenant, your anchor tenant in that shopping center. Yeah, you could be toast. I mean,
a lot of the inline leases are built off the Publix, so they can go dark. The Publix goes dark, and it's all downhill.
You know what that's called?
We call it go dark contingency.
Okay, well, there's co-tenancy.
Right, co-tenancy, right. You're right.
In the leases. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, like the percentage rent, a lot of people are trying to get, landlords are trying to get the co-tenancy out because they don't want to be able to have everything relied upon Publix when they have no control of the operation.
Right.
So yeah, sometimes their hands are a little bit tied. So yeah, the non-recourse side of it, you're really just focusing. I mean, you really want to be on kind of quote-unquote cruise control. There shouldn't be a lot of moving parts in the deal. The life companies take it to a whole nother level. So New York Life, MetLife, Prudential, John Hancock, Northwestern Mutual, your significant life insurance providers typically have, you know, anywhere of a plus or minus 5 to 10% stake in commercial real estate investments. Just because of the stability, because of the potential price appreciation, because of the tax benefits, you've got some of the biggest life insurance companies have very meaningful, and I'll call them buckets, in that they own real estate, they also lend against it, and they also buy the securities backed by it. So that could be sometimes 5 to 10% of their investment portfolio. And it's all non-recourse. They don't want anybody to get in their way. If they've got all the money out, whether they own it, whether they finance it, or they have the securities around it, securities aren't really going to be the non-recourse side of it. But the first two, they want to be able to box anybody out and say, I want to take this back. Because, and going back to last chapter in terms of the types of tenant or types of real estate, they're really focused on trophy assets. They really want high potential. They want the AutoNation building. You know, they want 300, 400 plus unit apartment buildings. They want something that's big, something that's meaningful, and that's really relevant. You know, AutoNation's a publicly traded car dealership. You know, they can point to their primary tenants' cash flows because it's all public, it's very easy, and they know that they're not going to probably move out of that spot. You know, so they want to be able to have, and they know that the rents are going to be manageable too. So, but something that's meaty. They want to put out big chunks of money and have stability in something that's very predictable, or they hope to be as predictable as possible. Yeah.
Going back to your example about the reserve requirements on certain loans, why, I understand the purpose of reserves, but why would you be required to reserve 150% of a particular loan? I don't see the point.
Ask regulators, I don't know either.
So they,
Just slow them down.
it just makes no sense.
Yeah.
Like, where's the benefit to you reserving or
There isn't.
setting loans out there?
It's
It's a requirement.
an ugly requirement.
And it's 150%.
Not always, but I mean, for construction loans, it's very significant. Enough where I have to consider if it's even worth putting the money out. To be, you know, depending, I mean, I work for a very well-capitalized bank, you know, top 20 bank, on the too big to fail list. Okay, so because we're in that new echelon, the profile of it is don't be stupid. And I still don't trust you, so I'm still think you're going to be stupid at some point, but we're still going to make you have all of this tier 1 capital, all these reserves backing what you do. Okay.
Once the loan closes, that reserve is
Once the loan is paid off,
matured.
yeah, paid off is when you can release. And I don't say paid off at par, because sometimes they don't always pay off at par. They are today, but the thing is that we didn't really have many reserves before. And so when all the windfall of losses were happening, then the banks were simply just riding that off, and they couldn't do anything else. And it was just a very, very slippery slope. But part of the non-recourse loans, which make it a little bit easier to stomach the reserve, is that the timing to pay those off on the lower leverage deals typically have prepayment penalties. So you've got, I think the book references yield maintenance.
You say that one more time, I missed that last part, so.
The ability to pay off loans is very, very difficult in non-recourse loan situation. So recourse, you're typically going to pay a bank back like a 1% exit fee or something like that. Okay, I mean, you pay an origination fee, and most of the time when you go and pay it off, you pay an exit fee.
Can you work around that typically, or is it generally?
Always.
Okay.
My bank will waive the exit fee if we can do the non-recourse permanent loan.
Right. But if it's still say it's a development project around construction, and you wanna work around the prepayment penalty, is that something typically you can negotiate?
Yeah. Well, not on the non-recourse side.
Not on the recourse side.
The recourse side, yes. The
Non-recourse is not really for ground up development, it's for
No.
when you're buying in place assets.
I've seen non-recourse, very limited, non-recourse construction money.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, I thought you were gonna say something. Okay. But you have, typically, it's like an incredibly safe loan. So sometimes you have 50–60% hard equity in the deal, the debt's maybe 40 or 50%, where you'll say, but you're paying, like, in that regard too, you're paying up for that flexibility.
Sure.
So you're gonna have to put up an immense amount of equity for maybe a 3% construction loan or something like that. But again, then you're not personally liable. So sometimes those, and it goes back to the motivations in this business. The motivations are very strange: ego, pride, equity, term of ownership. I mean, there's a myriad of ways ways of doing business, and I still don't know why people do what they do sometimes. I mean, it's really kind of wacky to me. But on the non-recourse side, again, the lenders really, and I know the book kind of harps on it, but yield maintenance and defeasance are incredible hurdles. So once you engage in the non-recourse loan, it's very, very difficult to pay them off. It's not, the yield maintenance and defeasance are essentially vehicles of replacing the debt service for the rest of the term of the loan, typically with riskless treasuries. So a CMBS lender, if you wanted to go and pay off your $10 million loan today, maybe your delta is like 150 basis points in treasuries in your existing rate today. I mean, sometimes you could be paying $12 million to pay it off, depending on how much term's left. And I use that example because I just quoted it this past week. So somebody's got to write another check for $2 million to pay off a loan 6 years early because they want to be able to deliver an asset free and clear to their buyer. So that was a lot of information in 2 sentences.
Yeah.
So, did I lose anybody?
Yeah, go ahead, run through that one more time.
yes, please.
All right. Well, I'll try to maybe simplify it a little bit more too. So, you're probably going to have, yeah. So I'll just go down. Exit fees kind of go a little bit more with recourse, and again, these are a potential way for a lender to make a little bit of money. Okay, so the exit fee offsets maybe sometimes the reserve cost. I mean, there's certainly a benefit to the lender to be able to keep that in place.
Those reserves at the bank that you would keep at the bank, you just put those in short-term T-bills, or like where is that? Or
Yeah, it's typically going to be in some riskless or very minimal risky.
that's regulated where you put that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we can tap the Fed window, so we can borrow directly from the Fed. So we'll typically have, treasuries,
Is that
corporate
negative
bonds.
cost? Because I mean, you guys are paying out the deposits.
Always, yeah.
It's not-
Yeah. I mean, that's why it's very difficult to make money in the banking business right now.
But I mean,
There's
if
so
you
many
lend
things.
out at 4% and you have to lend out basically twice as much, or 150% more,
Mhm.
so instead of your 5%, you're really getting 2%.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you have to determine what your cost of capital is. I mean, you're borrowing money at 25 basis points right now, okay, from the Fed. So to be competitive, and every deal is different, and with taking into consideration reserves, sometimes one bank has to be 30-day LIBOR benchmark plus 250 basis points. So maybe your rate's like 275. Another bank could say, I don't have a lot of construction risk. and I really, really like this client, and they're gonna be L plus 150. And so everybody, I mean, that's the competitive nature of it, especially the business right now in a very highly regulated environment, is that some people don't even do construction loans so that they can do really, really aggressive bridge loans or something like that. Or the opposite, we just wanted to take all the construction risk because we think we can get paid a little bit more money for that risk. But it also comes with the reserves and the belt and suspenders the regulators require as well.
But isn't the cost of capital the same for all the banks? Aren't they all getting it from the same pot? Is it just operational?
Yes and no. I mean, it all
side
kind of
of it?
depends on how much capital the bank has. I mean, look, Wells Fargo, my bank is a rounding error in size to Wells Fargo. Wells Fargo can basically do anything they want because they have so much deposits.
Yeah.
They're actually to the point where they hate the amount of deposits that they have because it's even harder to move that 800-pound gorilla, okay, from an earnings perspective. So, I mean, they have too much money to even put to work. So, it's how well you're capitalized too. You know, some banks go out of business because they can't do loans, okay? They have deposits, plenty of deposits, but that doesn't offset the amount of reserves to be able to actually be positive, you know? So yeah, that cost of capital for the top 20 banks is gonna be a lot different than, I don't know, Great Florida Bank, who I think just got sold.
Yeah, Florida Community Bank.
Florida Community Bank, yeah. So I mean, those guys can't go head to head with a top 20 bank usually at all. And sometimes if they do, they end up buying that business, just because they are, you know, very client focused. Does that answer your question? Not really?
I forgot what my question was.
We'll just go with, yeah, we're,
Do banks earn the interest on the reserves?
I'm just participating.
that's a new tag, yeah. I'm just yeah.
Do banks earn interest on their reserves?
Very minimal. Because I mean, you're getting a return on the treasury investment. Right? So I mean, it's nominal.
So, in all retrospect, aren't you loaning at a loss?
In some cases, yeah.
Because if you loan $100,
But yes and no. I mean, again, because your cost of capital could be 1 point and you're lending it out for 275.
yeah. But when I look at it, it's like, all right, say you loaning $100,
Uh-huh.
and you have to put 150 in reserves. So technically, you're theoretically loaning 250 out, but only receiving $150 back once you factor in all the risk.
Yeah. That's one component to a bank, though. I mean,
Yeah.
thankfully,
Oh,
that's not
plus
all you
fees
do.
and all
So
that
you
good
get
stuff.
fees for this and that, and the credit, and you have to be as diversified as you can, because if all you did was real estate lending, you'd probably go out of business like Sterling Bank.
Mm.
I mean, because that's what they did. I mean, they were very, very heavy residential and residential building and commercial bridge loans, and they failed.
Yeah.
I think what's that?
Yeah.
Yeah. They were too focused on a sector that took a bath.
It's a collateral, really. The reserve is a collateral.
Well, it's a loss cushion.
But it's a collateral. Or not. Is
Technically not, but I can understand why you think it would be. I mean, so you
Real
can't.
life.
Yeah, I mean, it's earmarked for if something goes bad with a particular construction loan. If your construction's delayed, if your lease up is weak, if you don't know how to operate, efficiently, yeah, you're gonna probably have to feed that loan with that cushion, but it's really not a collateral, technically collateral to that. Let's take 5 minutes, because we're at the top again.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's on the second floor.
Second floor.
Yeah, once you take the
It's
elevator.
only
It's like
Oh, you're that guy. You wanna, You didn't take the quiz, right? You, okay. I owe you, you want to take 2 right now? And also email you one? Sure. Did you get to check right now?
Yes, I've read through books.
Came already.
Yeah. You take 2, okay. That was what everyone else did this morning. And I'll email you one. Okay. That'll be an option.
How do you compare? Time to sit down and what if when the person drives you okay.
Yeah, a whole nother negotiation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Never. Whatever it is, even if it's off market. You know, you get a phone number, you send a letter. If you're driving around there, you see the blue, you see the corner of the red light.
Oh my God.
Oh, he's in the garden? Oh.
And so, because I remember that we had.
It was funny too, for brokers, I see it on the market. Deleted mail.
That is probably the
Everyone else was
The next.
Yeah, true.
People are a lot smarter than I.
Yeah, so, because I'm really trying, it's good to understand why. Single, active, young, old, like, right? Essentially, when you're looking at a loan, like somebody wants to come here for $100 million loan, you really look at it as a $250 million loan. Because you're still going to get the $250 back plus whatever, so you still make a profit.
I mean,
Actually, so like for example, say we
have to realize.
Yeah.
Starbucks is what they do, right? You want to see what the trends are.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can never look at it as dollar for dollar, because if it pays off the bar, and you realize your fees, you lose yield. So it's all perfect. That makes sense. It's
We're all dimensional.
you're hoping that it's happy, right? But it's gonna be.
Alright, so here's Tucson.
That's what. But it's almost too late. It is. Well, it's for construction.
Yeah, the university. Where's the university?
There's so much university. You can go to, you want it, you don't have to pay for it, but it's smart business.
You look like a little,
You know, Dodd Frank.
you look like a little Phil type
The
thing.
way that we want things to be.
I just want a good quality tenant.
It's different
Starbucks.
than a $500 million.
I think the area is probably already in there.
Well, let's see.
Why is it bad to pay your loan? I mean, what, is that just the way it is? It makes fees because they're losing the interest on the loan. From a banker's perspective, the worst day out there, like, you want that money out.
So look, this one here.
Adequate coverage.
And then we run.
Satisfactory. Why the bank wants that the fees and yield maintenance prepayment programs are important, from a borrower's perspective, from a banker. I have a great piece of asset, great asset, great.
Well, no, so like this one, I'll use this, so I'm gonna look at it in the same case.
So, but
First, I'm gonna, first step, I'm gonna sort of look for pockets in an aerial first to see where my housing is, and all that shit. Once I identify the area where it's in, I'm taking a few pictures.
doesn't have it.
And I would try to see where my gaps are, and then once I find a site.
I mean, they might have it
just
internally,
see
but hey,
where my
I've got a
best
cushion.
corner is demographically, and then we go over.
Problems if you have at least a just like you would kind of have with your house.
Is that
It's exactly.
paid software?
So that's a contingency from ours perspective, but from a lender's perspective, that's an
It's too
operating.
useful for free ones.
Yeah.
Free ones are terrible.
It's not really,
Yeah, free ones you gotta do a lot
yeah,
of
it
work
takes
yourself.
money out of your pocket. No, it's okay. Yeah, no, it's definitely not from our side.
Free ones you gotta look at.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's more part. Okay. And that's the situation.
That's one,
Two, what? No, that's a dog.
Texas next week. That's a bush. It's such a
Yeah, primarily, yeah.
And then, but what else is, it's gonna be 13?
Probably a little bit.
Right, where's the
That's
university?
the next reading.
It's a little bit further east. So if that's downtown, other side of the tracks.
Good area.
What are y'all looking at?
I think moving whole family up to Tucson.
At least where it's at. Yeah, right.
Take a lot of shit too. One of the first things I always do is to go to the website, loans coming in. And that's always the top.
So it's the plan also.
Hey, lots, you're up on it.
He's looking at.
Think how about, your middle one, the construction price would be a lot less.
Really?
Yes.
You know, when I think about the design, I think the middle one.
Yeah, you can't do something to sell it more, right?
That was like more like.
Right. Yeah, sure.
I take another look at, I mean, I don't know the market,
That's why
but then 635.
That's why I put,
Selling
oh,
price?
it's, yeah, there's some of them, the one across the street, they're going for 1,000 square foot. This again, this is in focus, red and tops, so I want to bring it down a little bit. There's one that just run the market, there's no construction around, 670 square foot. That's an ask, you know, it's an ask. But I'm thinking brand new construction, or modern, I think I can work it out, take out.
It's a good dollar amount.
The only thing that's
Just not even look at it,
cash out.
Yeah, well, all ground up development. But maybe more, maybe like rather than trying to get all your entitlements.
I would, but here's the thing, is I think I can get all that. I know I can get all that without paying $100 today. But I could buy time back, I'm saying.
Well, I think you could use that for
Yes.
So
So I got 30 days free right now, I had a 60-day close.
but I mean, you can get everything like up to the bolos or park out
Right,
front.
you're saying not,
$100.
right. Yeah, oh, no, you're right, I could do that. So here's what I'm thinking, I think I'm gonna get their appetite, I'm gonna get our appetite going, and then once she's already committed and knows what she's spending that money, then I'm gonna come back and say, listen, you out there, 30 days, I'll 30 days, I'll give you 10,000. So we're gonna put the price. That was what you're saying pretty much.
No, what I'm saying is like, look, you can have 1.7 today, I'll give you 1.8 here.
So you're saying you're looking for, you should give me a
Is everybody back? I think pretty much. Let's jump into the last hour here. One big topic.
Would you like some trail mix?
Is the sale leaseback concept of investing. So I think it starts at like page 402. So I'll just jump into it actually because these guys do it. Score Capital is a recent publicly traded REIT. Has been a big client of mine. The guy on the top left is a guy named Chris Volk, who's the CEO. And this is his third REIT that he's taken public. Just, he has an incredible comprehensive mind because he looks in both kind of the seller side of it, of a sale leaseback, and technically the sale leaseback is a, we'll just take the AutoNation building because we'll call that, they're the sole tenant in there. If they were to sell the building to Styles, they would then become, the owner would then become the tenant. Okay, so it's a great way to unlock liquidity for corporations. Usually in a sale leaseback, it's a triple net lease. So your tenant's going to be responsible for real estate taxes and insurance and common area maintenance anyways. So you can't really say that it's taking them out of the real estate operations because they are still responsible for all of that. But it's really just the ability to unlock liquidity. You know, go and focus on your operation, grow it, pay down debt, whatever is going to be. There's a higher and better use for that capital than probably locked up as kind of equity in a deal. So I think if I can get this volume going, we'll hear Chris's explanation.
I thought that was the guy, the H&R black guy.
Yeah.
Get your millions back, America.
Can you hear that?
Nope.
No.
In the desk at store is a foam block of cheese. It serves as a reminder for us to go for the cheese and focus on what's really important. That goes for managing our business and also for our approach to capital solutions for our customers. I'm Chris Folk, CEO of Store Capital, and we learned many years ago that having competitive and dependable capital for our customers is not enough. The most important things, our solutions, may be less tangible, but they hold the promise to make our customers far richer. Real estate intensive companies have a choice of whether to own or to lease their real estate. Today, leasing tends to be the better option, and you can see that for yourself in articles and financial models that are available on Store's website. But once one chooses a capital structure path, the questions become more personal. What are my specific objectives? How much control do I want to have over my business? Is flexibility even possible when it comes to long-term capital? Do my goals conflict with potential tax issues? And what happens if I sell my business? We learned many years ago that questions like these are where the cheese lies. In fact, thinking through such questions has the potential to more than double the value of a business. The solutions we can provide create value by either allowing our customers to take advantage of potential opportunities or avoiding potential debilitating costs. But to provide these solutions, we have to take a longer-term view. The relationships we create cannot just last through the closing of a transaction. Solutions have to transcend the transaction. Let me just walk through two small examples. Let's say that 5% of the properties you operate are great locations that you would like to expand. As your landlord, if we can fund the expansion for you, this accomplishes two things to make your company more valuable. First, your corporate equity requirements fall. And second, you stand to benefit from incremental sales and high marginal profits from those sales. In a published article I wrote that is available on our website, having just 5% of your sites expanded, with that expansion requiring a 25% added property investment provided by Store and resulting in a 10% sales increase could raise your business value in the area of 13%. But what if you wanted to expand 10% of your locations? And what if you anticipate that the expansion will result in a 20% sales increase? Now the added value creation potential becomes closer to 50%. And that equity value might be actually lost to you absent the willingness of your landlord to make an investment in your improvements. With Store's ability to help our customers invest in their outperforming locations, you can capture wealth by taking advantage of expansion opportunities. On to the second example. What if 5% of your locations underperform and make just half the profit margin of your average location? Assume that the average location earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, amortization, and rents, or EBITDA margin, is 20%. Then overall profit margin of the business would fall by 0.5%. In my article illustration, that small drag on corporate profitability would lessen corporate equity value by more than 11%. But what if the profit margin drag is 100%? Now the equity value lost in the business is more than 20%. And if 10% of the stores underperform, the loss in the business value is closer to 40%. At Store, we have solutions that can help your business from being bogged down by underperforming locations. These two simple examples, which can help avoid costs and capture values that roughly equal your overall shareholder wealth, show the power of Store solutions, which we call master funding solutions. Add these to the benefits of tax planning, development funding, corporate recapitalization planning, and there's more value to be had. Finally, there's the power of...
Let me just go back to that. Hold on. Because I think just... What's that?
You replay the whole thing.
That was a phenomenal 4 minutes and 10 seconds.
But that's more information than like one of these pretty dense chapters in here. It's pretty solid. Where he lost?
Getting back to,
Anything.
yeah, I cannot point to a single subject that I'm lost on.
He doesn't explain he tells you what the percentage of gains and loss, but he doesn't explain
Yeah,
how you got there.
don't bother with that part about it, because that's just really, that's as if you owned, well, yeah, I was gonna say subways, but, don't, they're just touting the fact that they have this incredible cost of capital, and that's very, very flexible. That's basically allowing your potential landlord to be your bank, okay?
Yeah.
You know, it's the partner, so it's not participating in kind of the real estate, we'll call it unit level or project level side of it, but they want to be your partner. You know, and don't mind about the growth side of it, because that's the best case scenario that can happen with the sale leaseback. But I'll use an example that I did with these guys. So last year I financed 3 LA Fitness gyms. Okay, it was like in February of last year. It was 3 gyms. They were all cross-collateralized and cross-defaulted at 1 loan. So you had the performance of 3 loans, and we did kind of a blended LTV across all 3, but you had then 3 different loans from a debt service coverage perspective to take into consideration to cover your debt service. So you're not just one gym, it either works or it doesn't, okay? So these guys said, well, we'll just buy 3. And they actually bought it from LA Fitness, so it was a sale lease back from LA Fitness, because LA Fitness said, I don't want to own the real estate. They made, it was like 3 gyms, I think they sold them for like $47 million, and it was like a $32 million loan. But LA Fitness said, I want to put that $47 million before taxes into new equipment in some of my best performing locations. So they actually said, you know, master funding or at store, I don't need you guys to expand. I'll go and upgrade the performance of all my locations. We'll do it ourselves. So we'll take the $47 million and really put it back into my business. I think they paid down some debt as well. But that's really the motivation for doing it. So owning real estate and store capital will tell you until they'll beat it into you, basically, that no owner or operator should own their own real estate. It's just basically a waste of capital. You know, if you're an operator, focus your cash on operations. But going back to LA Fitness, so, sorry, go ahead.
Well, you can do the LA Fitness thing first.
Okay, so, because I just want to compare and contrast a little bit here. So the LA Fitness last year, I learned 2 months ago, or almost 2 months ago, that one of the locations is going out of business. So they were selling these, not because they were great performers and they were going to raise all this money, but actually one of them was a piece of junk. I mean, they just had really bad, you can never get, and well, I can't say you can never get, but LA Fitness refused to show the historical membership history of these locations, which would have told them quite a bit. I mean, that's the ghost behind a sale leaseback. I mean, it takes an immense amount of due diligence as to why somebody would want to sell their building.
Especially catalyst company like Fitness.
Yeah. What's that again?
I thought that would be the first thing you think if they're trying to downsize or go out of business.
That's exactly how I look at it.
Well, what's the risk to you? I mean, they're going to still pay you your leaves.
Unless they go out of business.
Well, but doesn't the franchise have to pay for it or no?
Well, you're a franchisee, but they're only as good as the business is going to want them to pay. So, you bought it and you were doing, had $100,000 net income, and your debt service, was 70 grand, you had a nice 130 coverage or so, that feels pretty good. But as soon as you cut that your income taxable income in half, you're underwater. Then you're just saying, like, well, what's the point of operating? This is a waste of my time, a waste of my money. I'm not going to throw good money into a bad investment. So then you just say, hey, I'm not going to pay your rent anymore. Come back, foreclose on me, you can have your property back. You figure it out. So, yeah, the sale leaseback. The first question is why? Why is somebody who 100% occupies? And a lot of it's going to be office headquarters or big distribution facilities, typically mission critical, assets, something that's really material, hopefully has very material value to, either your top line growth or it's going to be integral to distribution or for whatever reason. LA Fitness has to have gyms open for business to be able to make money. So store says, okay, it feels pretty good. From a corporate level, LA Fitness financials are great. You don't know what the membership is going to do. Anyways, 2 months ago, one of the three is leaving. LA Fitness is still going to say, I'll pay you rent. But now all of a sudden, there's defeasance, prepayment penalty involved with it. So the store has 9 years left on their loan term. They're not going to defease it and pay it off early because the prepayment penalty is atrocious. Okay, so now we're stuck realizing reserves against a dark space that in the sale leaseback, LA Fitness has total control over who goes in their location. They're going to still pay rent. So store is now totally caught in their whole, scheme of, hey, it's only as good as your operator is going to allow your property to be. So and unfortunately, this didn't work out for store. But their alternative to master funding would have said, oh, we would have financed this and kind of our own mortgage-backed securities play, and that one of the locations, if it goes out, we'll release it from our pool. Then we don't have all of these headaches involved with it. So it's pretty interesting that all of what Chris Wolf just said kind of backfired in doing it without fitness.
It was just his due diligence that he didn't do enough of it.
Well,
or they didn't allow him to.
So they refused to release some of that due diligence. It's not part of their contractual lease obligation to have to share any of that with any landlord. Right. And they drafted a new lease. So there wasn't a lease before. So they said, we'll give you confidential corporate financials that are fantastic, but we're not going to share how these individual unit levels are doing. And one was doing so poorly that within a year.
That was a corporate location or was it a franchise location?
They're all corporate.
All corporate, right?
Yeah. Yeah, they don't franchise anything.
How do you, in case you could release it from your pool, what do you do? I mean, just take it out of the deal if it's, together.
Yeah, I think they're going to pay like 120% of the attributable loan balance for that one location that went dark, and take it out and put it on their line of credit. So, but I mean, it's 20% more of capital than they had to use a year ago just to deal with a headache that they never foresaw. That's
What's it? I guess for LA Fitness, why? If they sell it, they're gonna have the tax consequence. Why wouldn't they just refinance?
Well, they are. They're gonna pay a premium to get it out of the CMBS loan. So they're gonna in lieu of the defeasing the loan, prepaying it and paying a huge penalty. Typically in portfolios, and this is going a little off track, but you can negotiate a release provision so that if you wanted to sell one or two of the three, you could pay 120% of those, and then you're de-levering the balance of the one or two that's left in the pool. So they're going to probably do that, and but I mean it's a capital suck. I mean, it stinks that they now have to write a check because the sale leaseback didn't go their way.
But you were okay because you pooled it with 3 properties.
I pulled it with 3, so I'm covered.
Thank God you did.
Yeah, I was like at a 176 debt service coverage, so one of them left, and I'm now at like 134. So I still have a cushion, and I structured it that way on purpose.
Right.
Was there another question? Yeah.
What's like an average premium? Do you mean a rate? What would that be like for LA Fitness?
What do you mean for rate?
You were talking about before how in order to avoid that there was a premium for the leverage. So I was asking what was like an average typical
DCR?
I'll get back to you.
I'm just trying to figure out what rate you're referring to. I mean, 120% of that attributable loan balance is pretty typical. I don't know if that's one you're referring to. Yeah. I mean, it's a little bit easier and cheaper, but it's still obnoxious to have to do it.
You said 120, right?
Yeah.
What income would you make off of the land outside of the lease amount? Which, I mean, if corporate's willing to cover that failing site's leases, why is that impacting your DCR for your loan? I guess I just don't understand if
not
corporate
immediately.
is still paying for it, then it doesn't seem to me that it would. Who cares if there's because it's just land. You're not actually trying to make money off the building itself.
Right. But you're borrowing against that land value, and actually, so the book, which is very atypical, talks only about the leasehold land sale leaseback. So the sale leaseback that actually occurs 90% of the time is actually the land and the building. So it's your fee simple interest, not just your leasehold.
Was that case?
So LA Fitness was the land and the building.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So that clarifies your question. Yeah. So, but still, even if it was just the land, to qualify a debt service coverage, okay, to give credit to those that rental income from the leases, your contractual lease operations, your tenant has to needs to have moved into the building, moved into their space. They're open for business, the lights are on, welcoming customers, and they're paying contractual rent. So, I mean, you can confirm all that by requesting an estoppel. So, I don't know if anybody's bought a condo or, but that's basically outlining all of that's in a satisfactory lease, it's conforming. Okay, so, but if you're levered against just land itself, and it's not a self-amortizing loan, it's a bullet loan. So I mean, there was a couple different lease references in this chapter. There's at some point a balloon to that loan, and there's a call to that. So if you're levered even just from the dirt, and that building isn't open for business, paying contractual, and maybe if they're just paying, but you've got to have all three of those components in play. Okay, so to really kind of qualify your debt service coverage ratio. So even in my example, it was the land and the building. The tenant went dark, so you really can't give credit to an underwriting perspective, and it's a 10-year loan, 15-year lease. How can you refinance out that darkened building? What store now is concerned with is that LA Fitness controls my retenanting rights, even though they're paying me rent, so my yield hasn't changed, okay? But in 10 years or 9 years from now at the loan call, there's nothing you can do with a dark building.
Yeah.
So. Could you get another loan just for the remaining term of the LA Fitness? Even though it is still dark, couldn't you just still go right up to it?
Yeah, I mean, but most lenders aren't going to be too excited about lending against a dark gym.
But it still has cash flow, right?
It does. So you're probably just not going to get the same leverage that I gave you. But so you might have to write another check to delever that vacant building, essentially. But gyms are just impossible to retenant. So I mean, to your risk of market leases, and that market lease probably for that vacant gym is probably down 50%. Because what are you going to put in there? How do you backfill a pool? Indoor pool.
Skate park.
So what could you do with that building? Just tear it down?
What's that again?
What could you do with that building? Just, you have to tear it down and do something else?
I don't think you can tear it down. You just have to be.
Market it to UFIT.
You got to have vision.
Yeah.
You got to have vision. But I mean, there's a couple of LA Fitnesses right around here. I think I've been on the one in Oakland Park. I mean, it's 2 stories with an indoor pool and saunas and all that stuff. So your pool probably gets
That's my gym.
covered up. Yeah, you probably tear that component down, but, you know, put on my creative hat. I mean, what's keeping you from maybe putting in furniture store?
Well,
Maybe turn it
the
into
last
retail?
LA Fitness to close down in this area was actually switched for the UFit.
Yeah?
Yeah, they went to
Certainly,
another
yeah,
gym.
I mean, turning it into another gym is the easiest thing to do. That's your best case scenario. I mean, that's, you're right. I mean, that's where you start. Well, Planet Fitness, UFit, Orange Theory, whatever else gym you're gonna put in there. But the problem is those gyms, I mean, LA Fitness is the 800-pound gorilla in that space. You know, so you want to be able to cater to them. You almost kind of, if you were a store saying, you know, let me offer you a reduction in rent. You know, I know my debt service coverage is gonna suffer anyways. I know my leverage is gonna suffer anyways if I just am collecting less, but help me help you. Because LA Fitness doesn't care about the debt that store has on their collateral now. That's your problem. You know?
Yeah.
I could have gone to Matt Fuller and gotten debt myself if I was LA Fitness, you know? I mean, so, and a lot of those companies do, you know, approach us and say, I don't want to, you know, sell it to store. I want to hold on to the real estate, but let me lever the real estate. You know, let me do this. So,
So what's your take on this here? I mean, do you think it's an actual viable business model, or I mean,
huge.
yeah,
I love
okay,
it.
Okay.
I love it. One of the case studies I want to show you is a deal that I'm actually looking at right now, buying in Jacksonville.
But I guess why wouldn't a healthy company just go to you and re-leverage versus doing this? If it's a great store.
Depends on your motivations. I mean, I will say that the deal I'm looking right now is a headquarters for a marine logistics company. Proudly. You probably see their trucks coming all over the port, either on trains, but they have this headquarters up in Jacksonville that they just bought. Real estate feels great today versus 5 years ago.
They just don't want to own it.
So they said, I think I can get a premium on what I built it for. And I'm going to stay here for 15 years, so I don't mind signing a 15-year triple net lease. I don't mind operating the lease, paying taxes direct. I have a great insurance policy, I don't mind doing it. But I think I can sell it for a much bigger premium in today's market than I did maybe even a year or 2 or 3 years ago. It's brand new. Probably, well, I think they're publicly traded. I haven't done too much due diligence on it, but you know, they can. It's an opportunity for them to be able to sell their headquarters at what they think is a significant premium to their cost, and
We're thinking the timing's right to sell now.
and use that money for doing bigger
For
and better
business,
things.
yeah.
We hope.
For business.
Yeah, but it's headquarters, so what's keeping them too from saying, I'm just going to go and build another one, and we're going to move out, but I'm going to pay you for the next 15 years. I guess I don't care if they're still paying me, but it's certainly going to affect my debt.
And a question, do you know which is the strategy of CBS, which appear in all the corners lots right now in the area, especially North Miami, Ventura, in different areas? There are a lot of new CBS business. I don't know why they are in front of Walgreens or others in the competitors.
Well, they
are a special strategy. I don't know. I couldn't read about this.
So their strategy is to be everywhere that you want them to be.
But it's profitable?
They're publicly traded, you tell me.
No, for that I don't understand the strategy. The competition is so high around, and there are not a lot of population because there are areas that are vacation houses as well. Not all the people live all the year, in Florida. You need to.
They want to be anywhere and everywhere and make economic sense for them to be able to drive an occupancy cost of north of or no more than 3%.
Yeah, because I don't know.
So they want to have enough sales. Well, look at who knows what their strategy is. I mean, they tried to ban cigarettes and blew up in their face, and now they're selling cigarettes again. I mean, but they want to be absolutely everywhere that you want to be able to go and buy milk, buy eggs, buy prescriptions, buy soft goods, wherever it's going to be. Okay? They own very little of the real estate. They typically will pay rent because they want to get to such critical mass and grow. They can't do it with their own capital. Okay, so they let people go build their own stores, significant, very common plans, and just be on every corner where they think that they can actually make money.
Yeah,
Some corners, they don't even care about
yeah,
the money, they want to control the traffic.
yeah.
It's like McDonald's. I mean, everyone knows
Yeah.
McDonald's isn't a restaurant.
Presence,
What's that?
presence to be.
They're not a restaurant company, they're a real estate
Yeah,
company.
yeah, I understand.
So, quick question. What differentiates a sale leaseback from a reverse mortgage? Because conceptually, they seem to be the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly, residential reverse mortgage is a totally different beast. You have to be a certain age, you have to have like income qualifications, but it is, no different than CVS owning their own store and saying, I'll just go to Matt Fuller and put that on it, than selling it to store and they put that on it. You follow me?
Yes.
So the reverse mortgage is
It's like, I'll pay you, you stay there, but when you die or when you go away, I own your property.
right.
But they're not paying
And
rent.
there's no, yeah, there's no rental.
So, yeah, that's what the difference
But
are.
there's-
You're realizing
paying you,
cash
but-
today, like
Yeah,
a
cash
refinance,
today.
but yeah, there's an event with the past.
Yeah, like you just said, I think it's like a pawn shop today.
It's nicer than that. At least it's
Yeah.
government guaranteed pawn shop.
Matt, question I have is, whenever, I've heard that McDonald's argument so many times. I've heard that McDonald's thing several times. My only question is, McDonald's also owns a bunch of shit real estate that would never sell and nobody ever wants to own. So, where does that come into play in the whole realm of McDonald's real estate ownership? They own good, great markets, but a lot of it's horrible, that you never get that.
Yeah, yeah, and that's just a cost of doing business. So, I mean, I don't know anyone in McDonald's real estate team.
And I'm sure
but-
some of their best locations are probably, ground leases because they don't want to give up the land.
And they do a ton of that,
Yeah,
too.
right.
They sell it like 4 caps.
Right.
It's ridiculous. But, what's considered a bad piece of land for McDonald's?
If, as long as they're still selling hamburgers. But the
Exactly.
theory is if they're not selling
Exactly.
hamburgers, they could still be a real estate company, right? Is that the
Correct.
argument?
Correct.
So then they stop selling hamburgers and now what?
You figure out your alternatives. But, so,
But I guess my point is that if
in
they're
an
not selling
inferior
hamburgers.
corner, though, in your mind, where you could think about putting a CVS, they're perfectly satisfactory with them being a hamburger outlet, right there.
I'll give you an
I'm not gonna
example.
name cross streets,
Right.
but a rougher part of town that you would hate to even drive through might be absolutely killing it
For another
for
hamburger.
selling hamburgers.
True.
So, that's what they
I hear you. So
weigh out,
maybe
it's what
backfill it with
we're.
another hamburger if they went out of business? Which
No,
would-
they would never let
They
it
never,
in
okay.
there.
But if they went out, I'm saying, isn't the point of them being a real estate company if no longer they could sell hamburgers if they do own great real estate, great markets? Isn't that the theory or no?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. But for them, it's just control.
Okay.
I either want to control it for hamburgers, or I want to control it against a competitor, or I want to control it against a higher and better use.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they have floods of capital, they have access to even more of it if they needed to in the bond market. They're not capital constrained, it's control. Keep Burger King out, keep Taco Bell out. Even if, I mean, there are motivations that you and I probably would never, or any of us in this room would even think applicable when you're that big. I mean, some people.
I'm probably just thinking of outlier examples.
And there's probably, in the McDonald's situation, there's a million
Right.
outlier examples.
Right.
I mean, there's, the tax credit side of it too, like plays into it with McDonald's. I mean, they're incentivized to keep stores open in
Losing money.
losing money,
Right.
in Opelika. I love Opelika.
Really nice.
It's up and
Sells
coming
an
neighborhood.
incredible amount of hamburgers. The city's keeping them in there, and and they are staying open because now they're incented to stay open. So, yeah, just to stay on a corner that maybe had been a pawn shop, you know, some other alternative use that just, you know, was a revolving door. It's like, I will give you a 10-year tax break to go build a beautiful new modular McDonald's. And, yeah, the incentives are incredible. Same, I mean, Walmart, the same thing. What they get away with is staggering.
Yeah.
Staggering.
I heard about Bass Pro Shop, just taking advantage of community governments and stuff like that. They require like unbelievable amounts of community capital.
Because if you build it, they will come.
Yeah.
So, I mean, my dad actually built a Bass Pro Shops, and I think he got like an 8-year tax break, and real estate tax break, because it was, you know, it was a secondary, tertiary location. There was nothing really happening with this dirt, but it had fantastic access to Mobile Bay, Alabama. You know, a lot of fishermen, both you know, in the bay and the Gulf, and you know, and shrimpers, and it's just like, man, they almost paid him to build it. It almost felt like.
That's what happened in Tampa, was they paid him to build it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, this is from the landlord's perspective. So there he was, despite the lease rental generation on a construction cost, you know, on a construction cost basis, it's a home run. But it's all, you know, charter schools too. Incredible wave right now of the charter school craze. I think even this past week there was another bill, another pro-charter school bill in the state of Florida passed to grow more locations and have more school choice. But
private or public?
It's publicly funded and privately operated.
Is charter?
Yes. And but look, I mean, you can go and build a school at an incredible return on cost in some of the places that you wouldn't even drive. You know, because there's a dilapidated already existing school that's 100% occupied, maybe with waiting lists and kids sitting on top of each other. You know, but the opportunity to build for a rental stream there is incredible. You know, because there's an alternative maybe. So yeah.
In Pembroke Pines, they converted a Kmart into a charter school.
It was a Target.
Yeah.
No, it was a Kmart.
That was a Target. That was a Charter Schools USA that moved into it?
I don't know. It's in the same shopping
Yeah.
center where there's Kinko's, there's Sedano.
So nice, they did it
It's
twice.
huge. It's huge, yeah. I mean, because the Kmart's are typically huge.
It's a big school now.
A friend of mine converted a Target in Cooper City, I want to say. And I mean, it's like 180,000 square foot, single story,
Yeah.
hardly any windows. But I mean, he stole it because there was, you know, Target had gone dark because they built a super Target. You know, I don't know, it went from Target to the super Target down the street. But you know, going back to the LA Fitness situation, what do you backfill the gym with? Well, you got to be creative. What do you backfill a Target with? You know, Target was worth $27 million when it was paying rent. It sold for $4 million when it was dark. Somebody stole it for $4 million, put and reconverted it to a charter school after putting $13 million into it, and then did a bond deal for like $38 million. And so it's the motivations. It's, you know,
What do you mean when you say bond deal?
you wouldn't have got tax exempt bond financing because it's a public school, so you can tap 501c.
Can you say that again, please? What's the bond yield?
What's that again? Sorry.
The bond
The question Anthony asked you.
So the bond deal, so because it's a public school, you can, and it's non-for-profit, owned and operated now, you can go and tap the bond market and get a tax-exempt bond financing. So it's non-recourse, 30-year fixed-rate financing, but it's public bond investors that are backing the debt.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you're referring almost to real estate? No,
What's that?
your friend owns the real estate, not the school, obviously.
Well, he bought the real estate, converted it to a school, the school bought it from
Bought
him
from him.
with the bond financing.
Gotcha.
You're saying you didn't pay any taxes on the equity, not just the interest, you're not paying any taxes for bond, that bond?
Well, it's a tax exempt, yeah, so there's
The
no,
whole-
no income taxes.
But not for your buddy.
No,
Right,
yeah,
you
no,
still
this is
live
for the
there.
school that now owns
Oh,
it.
okay.
So my buddy bought it for
Not
4,
for
converted it
profit.
to a school, sold it to the school, who bought it from him with tax exempt bonds.
So they overpaid like a month.
But the
Like a what?
the government, a question, the government bought
what's up.
What's that?
charter school is a public school, but the administration is for the,
Private, yeah.
is a private, yeah,
Yes.
I understand.
And no unions.
No, I understand because I was in the field in education, this really not. But who is the owner of the school? The owner, the real owner in papers? Is the government? Who is the owner?
The owner is now the non-for-profit,
Is, yeah. Because non-for-profit is that you cannot distribute, but maybe you can do profit.
Oh, you still make money now.
there are some very.
How do you know that,
profitable
Doctor?
schools.
No, because I manage it, this is my field, for that I know.
Yeah.
All over the world is the same thing.
Okay,
And non-for-profit is not that you have no profit, you need to reinvest the money. You cannot distribute because they are not one owner.
yes, there's no investors per se, but there are some incredibly profitable.
Yeah, I know, it's a good business, I know.
So
It is.
before purchasing the $4 million space, did he already have the school
Yes.
relationship with the school?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so, I mean, there's,
Did they point him there?
I think they did have something to do with it, yeah, so, I mean, he,
Oh, it's nice.
So he was like the broker in the deal.
yeah, well, he's done a bunch of them, like 31. But the
It's a good
schools
business.
don't have the construction,
Sure.
they don't have the site selection, they know where they wanna be, they know where the kids wanna go, or where it's very dense for kids, but, they just don't have the real estate expertise. So a lot of sale leasebacks are happening in the charter school space too, because they don't wanna go and get very expensive bond financing. I mean, $38 million of bond financing is probably going to default. I mean, there's not enough growth there. You can't put any more kids. You have a finite enrollment-based revenue stream. So
Good old government.
you can only put on 1,200 kids, and they're there. What the heck else do you do? You have a question? Yeah.
They can only do that based on zoning, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, everything had to get rezoned, but it was better than having a dark target just hang around there. I mean, you weren't gonna get any tax revenue from a dark target, you're not gonna get it from the school. But at least you can fulfill 1,200 students to go and backfill it in a brand new location and continue, bettering the education.
But, yeah, especially in Broward County, when was a crash in 2006, they closed a lot of schools, and now they need to rebuild the situation. They put 60 students inside the class, and the people claim about this. For that is a good business right now, the charter school, because they need to share and to divide it, because you cannot have a 60 student little child in one room.
I agree with you. I mean, that's
It was
why
part
you're
of the crash.
proactively offering the ability to backfill it with the
Exactly.
school. And it got rezoned very easily because let's relieve 60 kids in one classroom and go to 30 with this new location. So the zoning,
Exactly.
everything went very smoothly. It was a very
Exactly.
pro
It's a good
charter
business.
school business. But it's only as good until that charter school goes vacant and goes belly up.
Sure.
Then what do you do?
The government provided, no, but you put the
They can't pay rent. The
payroll.
government's not gonna pay your rent on their behalf.
No, but the government paid the salaries, the wages for the,
Zero.
no.
Yes.
No, they pay. You are an employee of not of the school.
You have to go and find a new school. If you're not teaching in a specific location, you do not have a salary. through that. Into that
My
school
daughter
year.
was working in the charter school of Aventura, and the government paid the salary, and the other
Well,
thing,
the management company
no,
was paying her salary. Yes.
I did a W-2. I don't know, maybe change it. It
Well,
was many years ago, I don't know.
It's because it's county funded, okay? So it flows from the county through the management company, and the management company pays all their overhead. So yes, the W-2 is Aventura Charter School, but it's county funded, but it's managed by whoever it is. So anyways, the sale leaseback is only as good as your previous owning tenant
Sure.
who's in business. And then it's, but that's the clip of it. But let's finish the rest of this because, the recapitalization, the substitution rights, all this is pretty important for the exam.
I'm sorry, say it again.
Hey!
I got you, man.
Hang right there.
Value. Finally, there's the power of working with the Net Lease Solutions leadership team, having more than 30 years of experience. Taking advantage of that kind of expertise can help to lower frictional costs that arise from addressing day-to-day issues like insurance claims or real estate easements. Master Funding Solutions is the cheese. It is the largest driver for our customer wealth creation, and at STORE we believe that our financing solutions should help to create wealth and opportunities and not limit them.
So outside of the cheese, the wealth and opportunity is obviously the driver for this.
You said you worked for
Yeah, so we
No.
helped take them public, have a $350 million line of credit out to them. They're publicly traded now and review their project level debt too. So, but a big part of their business was, and that, again, it was the third REE of going and approaching Auto Nation, going and approaching O'Charlie's restaurants, and going and approaching players to unlocking equity in cash in their real estate, and they have some pretty flexible master funding solutions to doing so. So they know that there's always inherent risk in this. We know there's going to be people that go belly up and fail, but you got to get big enough, and you got to be able to position yourself to be able to absorb some of those risks and those losses. So that's it. Yeah.
You said computations is going to be on the exam. What should we study?
Chapters 11, 12, and I would probably go through 13 as well.
For the rest, right?
Yeah. And a lot of this is the beginning. And how many have already gone through the previous finance class? Like Tyler and Dustin, I remember you guys from the previous class, but some have not probably had as much quantitative background, so we'll probably limit that a little bit on this one. I mean, I think, and after this session, I mean, I wanted to be able to, kind of just lecture it a little bit more, and it's going to be a little bit more applicable, going on more Excel case studies, like I was saying, kind of, we want to go through the whole. The real estate investments is really basically going through the whole entire life cycle of the project, not only just building it to, or buying it to selling it, but the motivations around, structuring it,
Tool model one all the way through.
optimizing it. I mean, there's so many neat and fun variables. It's kind of a fun business.
You said you're gonna email the case study on Monday?
Probably not Monday, but I wanted to first kind of get everybody into groups first, because I'm not going to be here on Saturday for the exam. And so I think the first half is probably going to be the test, and the second half is going to be the groups for the start kind of case study prep, which will then be presented in front of everybody, because I really want everyone to kind of dissect everybody else's presentation. I wanted, and just, have you thought about this? Why didn't you do that? There's, again, like I said, there's so many variables in qualifying an opportunity that I want it to be interactive. But I wanted to also match up people who have the previous finance class skills with maybe some people that maybe aren't as quantitatively, up to speed. So with regards to just cash flows, and you don't have to raise your hand if you're not as well versed, but it'll be to your benefit if you do, put it that way. So, I mean, if we wanted to just do like by the row, or we can mix it up a little bit. I don't, it's up to everybody.
No, I don't think anybody will.
You just start picking it up.
What's that?
You should start picking yourself.
Well, it's not gonna be draft,
Oh.
but I wanted to at least be able to plug people in that maybe don't have as much of the cash flow background and analysis, and maybe they can then be a little, more involved with kind of the qualitative side of it.
Sorry, just going back to the last sentence chapter. I don't know if you guys already talked about it here, but I just did not get the floating interest rate swaps then.
Okay.
And I couldn't understand, the book didn't really explain, it said, yeah, you're swapping it with somebody else, and then somehow you guys just magically get both a fixed rate, and I didn't understand that. I was like, how do you go from variable, and then just because you add another player, now it's fixed? And
Yeah.
I
I mean, you could do a chapter on rate blocks, CMBS,
Is it on the test?
floaters.
If it's not on the test.
Yeah, that's a good question.
But it said it was prevalent, and that's the one thing I was worried about.
It is prevalent just because the recourse situation, sometimes converts instead of going to a completely different product. They'll just say, well, let me just do a swap. It's just that easy, like you pointed out in the book.
No,
3 paragraphs. It's just that easy. Let's
to
just
my
do a swap.
knowledge, I thought it mentioned that you would be swapping with someone who had a fixed rate. So the other party is someone who wants a variable rate, and you're the person who wants a fixed rate, so you guys swap.
So it won't be on the test, A.
Okay.
But B, I'm going to go into that the next time we talk, because there is inherent risk in that swap that I think needs to be covered in chapter 13, not 12. There's like 3 paragraphs doesn't do it justice. Yeah.
How many questions on the test? Is it short answer, like the quiz, a little bit more? How is the test structured?
It's going to be everything.
Oh,
It's going to be, but I don't want you to have to like create cash flows. Like the first quiz, I'll give you the inputs, and it's really just being able to manipulate them. But it is going to be, we haven't been on purpose too focused on after-tax IRR, before-tax, but focus on that stuff. I mean, it flows pretty easy. I mean, I don't know if you have questions, please speak up now. If there's anything that you want reviewed for that, but I think those charts flow very, very easily. And I've actually focused more on the meat and potatoes around it than actually just regurgitating the numbers again to you. So
It's 11, 12, and 13 as well?
yeah.
on the test? 13's on the test?
Yeah. Parts of 13. I want you to review it. It's not going to be heavy into it, but I mean it's risk analysis. So it's kind of gut check stuff. It's not going to be like you're not going to just oh my goodness, what is all this? I mean, it's kind of common sense stuff. I say that, but I mean, okay. So it's not my fault.
When it comes to concepts, they're pretty laid out in the book, but would you consider giving out like practice questions as far as like the math questions so
Should we focus
to
on the ones at the
understand?
back of the book?
Yeah, to like places to look at.
Yeah, I mean, frankly, a lot of it's going to be, so a lot of the questions on the quizzes were simply questions at the end of the chapter. But,
Do it for the
I
exam.
like that process.
but for the exam, it's going to be that stuff. It's going to be concepts, real life concepps that I just want you to kind of think through. I mean, I think the biggest part about real estate, investments, in my humble opinion, wanting to kind of talk about it a little bit more is, just personally wanting to be involved in the teaching side of it, is that people are very short-sighted when it comes to the full investment spectrum. And I say that in that there's just so many variables as we talked about. I mean, you really have to be thoughtful. You really got to be thorough, because if you don't, someone takes advantage of you, or you miss something in a lease, or you miss something in due diligence, and your investment is toast. So it's really, really detailed. And so I kind of, when passing up the quizzes, is just like, be thorough, be thoughtful, think through, a myriad of what could happen. And I'm always asked kind of why. Because there's everybody, these sellers, banks, I mean, you gotta, what works for you is very, very important, because there's a lot of people that want what they, need too,
So I don't know if the test is completed or not, but if it is, or once it is, can you send out a little snapshot at us about what areas should we focus on?
The first 4 questions or something?
That too, either one, either one works. But just kind of, because we're talking 3 chapters, we want to.
It's not going to be surprising.
Yeah, it's not gonna be a hard one.
This is going to be pretty.
That's what usually they say when
Yeah.
it's the hardest thing in the world.
Look at the quizzes been so far.
Yeah, I mean, again, look at the quizzes thus far.
Yeah.
It's going to be a lot of numbers, thinking through definitions, applying definitions. I want you to apply it.
Okay.
Think about it.
I got this. I'm just saying.
Okay.
Matt, these projects we're doing, they're gonna take us from start to finish.
You know what I'm saying?
I need touch up on the whole thing.
Well, and it's going to be applying, chapters like 4 and 6. That's why I was going to say, matching up with people that have that background, and then, but it's going to be 11 and 12. Why are you investing? Why do we think this is an opportunity? Why this is not also an opportunity? It's thinking through a scenario. Not everything works. Not every deal you see, you buy. Not every opportunity you can build, you put a shovel in the ground. And so qualifying that.
Hey, just quick, can you tell Anthony what chapters we've read so far? Just so he's aware.
But I get my quizzes, Matt.
Okay. Do you want a couple minutes before the next one?
5 minutes.
Right into it.
Yeah, let's pick groups actually, really fast.
This, bro.
4 teams. But also incorporating the people that, like I said, raise your hand if you're probably not as savvy on the number side of it. And oh, right here.
Robert, you want in on this?
I'm always down. Want to take this whole?
Yeah.
Process.
How many people you want on these groups?
4 or 5 people?
4 or 5 people. Yeah, I think it's 4.
We're in it. Alright, somebody else. Oh, we're coming for you. We're coming for you.
Okay. Being able to do it, you might not have to, but you need to know what the process is. That'll take you an hour. Good one. I don't know if you want
You know what's funny? I don't know where this came from. I was working, and all of a sudden like a hammer.
Not right, join and then bail.
Introduce yourself. Just pop it in every class. What's that? Exactly. Just have to be in What you guys agree?
Yeah, we did myself. We already got 5. Yeah, we got 5. Can we do 6? I don't care.
Don't do 6.
It's gonna be,
Write it down, your team one, write it down.
Whiteboard?
Team one is right on the
Where's the paper, Robert?
And how many are there?
This is the name. At least 4 or 5 people per group.
Okay.
Nobody else.
4 or 5.
Okay. And then the second thing you said there was.
I think, I don't know. You don't want to do this by yourself.
Robert.
Brian, Anthony, Janae, Robert.
How do you spell Janae?
Janae.
Spell it.
That's what I thought.
J-E-N-A? J-E-N-A?
E at the end.
J-E-N-E.
No, you got it right.
J-E-N-A-E, okay.
Alright, team one, boom, done. Nice, son.
Yeah. I don't know.
Everybody's, yeah.
Not that exciting. We're not that exciting. One day we'll get there though. You can make the names me too. Right, you want to put a group name? Group one for now. You want to get fancy with it? Matt was laughing at us. Come on, Billy.
We got Team Awesome, but not too awesome.
That's on top of it.
So between now and
Yeah, so you can be.
Right. You were saying you did a lot of work with marketing.